I have an uncle who is a small business owner. He's had this business for over 30, 35 years now, and he literally built it from the ground up. Over the holidays, we were talking about business, and he was telling me about my cousin who's currently going to university and taking business classes. And he was saying that he felt like he taught him as much as he could up until that point. And I try to stress the importance of how valuable his practical entrepreneurial business insights were, because he's actually created a business, whereas in business school you have people who read about business telling other people how to run business. um, and one of the resources that I came across was from Austin Allred, who compiled um, all the Amazon shareholder letters from when Amazon had went public in 1997 through 2017. And these shareholder letters are written by founder and CEO Jeff Bezos, who thoroughly goes over the strategy and the philosophy of Amazon, and you get to watch that trajectory through the first 20 years of its life and the incredible momentum that it's developed since. I will have this the Medium post that I found this compiled PDF for you to reference. But it's taught me a lot. I've never met Jeff Bezos, but I'm a customer of his. I would imagine you are too. I'm very familiar with Amazon and familiar with the trajectory that they've been growing at exponentially. And because of that, I'd like to share with you some of the key points in this compilation of shareholder letters that I feel that not only can you apply in starting a business, but you can use the mindset in wherever you're at right now, whether you're an employee of an organization, whether you're in school learning and thinking about what your next steps are. I think there's a lot of valuable, practical and useful information in here. But before I get into the details and the tactical points of view that I have, I do want to address concerns about Amazon being a monopoly, and then also Jeff Bezos as a leader, with the stigma of being a hoarder of money and capital. Is it good or is it bad to have the Amazons and the Jeff Bezos of the world? I can remember going to the airport, talking to a Lyft driver who also worked at an Amazon warehouse. And she told me that she wasn't happy with the way the warehouse was being conducted. And she told me that she had no respect for Jeff Bezos. And obviously that's her opinion. I've never worked at an Amazon warehouse. I can't speak for her or to that. But I would imagine that she's never met Jeff Bezos, and she's never been part of the conversations that he's part of with his leadership to figure out all the inconsistencies and opportunities to improve upon how they're operating. And when it comes to having mega wealth, Jeff Bezos, the richest person on record, there's nothing that I can say. He has earned this money, and he's earned it in a way that is in alignment with the system that we have. And yes, the system that we have isn't 100% perfect, but we can't blame him from utilizing and leveraging his resources in the system to build and to grow, um, and to take advantage not of people but of the opportunities that present themselves. I believe that having people like Jeff Bezos or like Bill Gates or like Elon Musk, I believe that it's good to have these types of individuals because the businesses that they create have far-reaching implications into how we engage with the world and how we engage with each other. And the infrastructure that they provides a lot of value, and I believe that they should be compensated for it. And when you look at things in other viewpoints and other ways of life, things like the amount of stars in the foreseeable galaxy, that most of the massive stars are concentrated in a small amount of people. The same goes for wealth. Wealth is concentrated in a very small group of people. Now, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just trying to make a connection there, that there is a law called the Pareto distribution that talks about how, 20% of something has 80% of something. And that type of concentration is a natural law that you see playing out in throughout life itself. Is there opportunity to tackle wealth inequality? Yes. How we get there, I don't have the answer. If I did, I wouldn't be recording this podcast out of my closet. But nonetheless, being able to incentivize entrepreneurs, innovators to build and to provide value for people, that is important. And I think you see that reflected in Amazon earning reports, and you see it reflected in the shareholder letters that Jeff Bezos sends out on a yearly basis. Moving on to the business side of things, getting into the shareholder letter. I know even in this letter, Jeff Bezos brings up the prime flywheel. And a flywheel was popularized by Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, and really boils down to heavy effort up front creates momentum and makes things easier and faster and more difficult to stop in the long run. And that type of thinking is in alignment with Jeff Bezos, who constantly talks about long-term thinking, long-term planning throughout the letters of this PDF. And he even talks about how things like Prime or Amazon Web Services, when they create the initial idea and they get it into market, they're not expecting for that business to be profitable until from 3 to 7 years. So having that long-term view, having that patience is critical when you're investing or trying something new. And with Amazon, its origin as a internet company, that lends itself to having the opportunity of having low cost of replication. If you own a physical warehouse, for one warehouse, each time you stock something, you can't stock something else. And each time you're stocking something, each position and space that takes up has a cost of storing it. Well, with the internet, there's low cost of replication, because once you get the description of the product, the reviews of the product, a picture of the product, once you get it online, It doesn't matter where it's stored at. You have a salesman, if you will, which is the internet, working for you 24/7, 365, even when you're sleeping. And it doesn't cost you any more to get the word out about what product or the type of inventory that you have. And that's something else that I've learned about, customer reviews. I'm sure that customer reviews are important to you. They are to me. And that was something that was new. That was something that Amazon created, and apparently retailers thought was crazy, to allow negative reviews to show up on the products that they were selling seemed counterintuitive. But this goes back to Jeff Bezos placing the customer at the center of everything. And he talks about throughout this PDF, talking about having obsession over the customer. So much so that it's about focusing on the customer over your competition. And some of the principles that he talks about, I pulled a direct quote from the PDF where Jeff Bezos says that customer obsession rather than competitor obsession, eagerness to invent and pioneer, willingness to fail, the patience to think long term, and taking a professional pride in operational excellence, end quote, are some of the principles that had pulled out from the PDF that lean towards the ingredients that Amazon has used to beat their competition because of the focus that they have on the customer. And drilling down on customer experience, there's a quote in here that says, "We want Prime to be such a good value, you'd be irresponsible not to be a member." And end quote. And that's how I feel when the Prime membership comes to renew every year. It's like, oh, I want to make sure that it's taken care of because Amazon takes care of me. They have everything that I need, and it gets here in a timely manner. And if I have any issues at all, they go above and beyond to correct it. So he's right. I mean, we're almost in a situation where to not have Prime membership means that you're not doing all that you can to get the most out of whatever you need. Jumping back to the principles that I had mentioned that he had talked about, talking about the eagerness to invent and pioneer. He also talks about the willingness to fail. And there's a quote in the PDF where he talks about, where he says, "One area where I think we are especially distinctive is failure. I believe we are the best place in the world to fail. We have plenty of practice. And failure and invention are inseparable twins. To invent, you have to experiment. And if you know in advance that it's going to work, it's not an experiment. Most large organizations embrace the idea of invention, but are not willing to suffer the string of failed experiments necessary to get there. Outsized returns often come from betting against conventional wisdom, and conventional wisdom is usually right. Given a 10% chance of 100 times payoff, you should take that bet every time. But you are still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. We all know that if you swing for the fences, you're going to strike out a lot, but you're going to hit some home runs. The difference between baseball and business, however, is that baseball is a truncated outcome distribution. When you swing, no matter how well you connect with the ball, the most runs you can get is 4. In business, every once in a while, when you step up to the plate, you can score 1,000 runs. This long-tailed distribution of returns is why it's important to be bold. Big winners pay for so many experiments. End quote. And I know that was a long quote, but there was a lot of great jewels packed in there. of taking chances and being able to iterate and fail time in and time again. Because when you look at creativity and you look at invention, it really comes down to a numbers game. In comedy, that same rule applies. The more you write, the more jokes you have, the more jokes you test out, the more opportunity you have to come across the ones that work. The same goes with trying different things in life, and then also trying different things in business. And in business, all you need is one to take care of all the other 9 that you struck out on. Some more tactical points here. I look at, the obsession over the customer and focusing on the customer experience more so than you focus on your competitors is it ties into something that I talked about in podcast number 169 titled Serving Positivity. It's a principle that's universal and timeless to have service above self. And that's, to me, what is a beautiful thing about capitalism is that you're incentivizing others to treat others in a better manner. Being in sales, being in business, being in a capitalistic system has made me a better person. It's not the only reason why I've become a better person. It's one reason to become a better person because people don't like to buy things from people they don't like. So you're incentivized to be likable. And whether that might be, surface level or not, think about the engagements people are having when a pizza guy is delivering a pizza. Think about how generous that idea of someone driving to your house with cooked food and greeting you with positivity. That, as one example, would not happen if they were doing it because they had to, not because they were incentivized to. And that's something that's beautiful within capitalism that ties directly into the customer is at the center of everything. And a lot of times we're a customer, and we have to embrace and recognize the fact of how beautiful it is that the ones that treat the customers the best do the best. And then moving on to some business acumen in the PDF, you'll find Jeff Bezos talking about fixed and variable cost. A fixed cost for you might be that mobile phone bill that you have every month coming out, or your rent, or your insurance. Those are things that that are going to hit every month. Well, with having a low replicable cost setup with the internet, growth spreads fixed costs and lowers per unit cost as you get more inventory and as you get more customers, things get cheaper. And that thus, going back to what we talked about earlier, generates more momentum for the Amazon flywheel. And when it comes to one of the most important variables, once you have this momentum and once you're looking to grow your business, Jeff Bezos talks about how one of the most important variables is free cash flow. And just to kind of give you a perception about what free cash flow is, Nick Kokonis, who's the CEO of Talk, a reservation and CRM system for restaurants, he went on the Tim Ferriss podcast and he talked about this story that involved 3 buckets. He said that his dad told him that it's 3 buckets. It's the money in, the money out, and then the third box is what paid for your college. That's the money that's left over. So that's what free cash flow is, money in, money out, and then how are you repurposing the cash that remains, and how are you investing it back into the business? That's what free cash flow is. And at the tactical point of view, from Amazon's point of view, a quote that I pulled out from Bezos says uh, that in his initial letter, quote, we wrote, when forced to choose between optimizing the appearance of our GAAP accounting and maximizing the present value of future cash flows, we'll take future cash flows. And then he explains why that's the case. He says that, quote, if you can know for certain just two things, a company's future cash flows and its future number of shares outstanding, you would have an excellent idea of the fair value of a share that company's stock is today. And he talks about how you can get to that point. And Jeff Bezos, he spent time working at a hedge fund before he started Amazon. So he has an investor background. And he points to how free cash flow is central to leveraging your business and growing your business if you're an entrepreneur. And as an investor is a prime indicator of how the company is going to perform in the future. So this is something that you could take if you're a business owner, you could take if you're an investor, or personally in your own personal life, thinking about those three buckets. Money in, money out, what's left over, and how are you utilizing it is at the foundation of what Amazon has used to inject and invest resources into innovating on behalf of the customer, serving others, and taking risks. There's a lot of information packed in here. It's for free. You can get the wisdom directly from the source. You don't have to pay $100,000 to get an MBA to realize it. All you have to do is seek it out, find it, engage with it, listen to it, and then experience it. And with that, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your attention. I hope you're staying well, safe, healthy, happy, and sane. And until next time, have a great week.